Wilbur, come back. Come back. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen, and this week we are doing another movie review. This is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Directed by Charles T. Barton, released by Universal Pictures in 1948. So it stars, of course, the legendary comedic duo of Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, as well as the Universal classic monsters, Frankenstein's monster, the Wolfman, as played by the legendary Chaney Jr., and in only his second performance as Dracula, Bela Lugosi. So you get all three legendary classic Universal monsters in this one film with two legendary comic icons, Abbott and Costello. And this is my favorite horror comedy of all time. It's amazing. I still love it to this day. So the film begins with these two railroad baggage clerks by the name of Wilbur, as played by Lou Costello, and Chick, played by Bud Abbott. Now, they're getting a shipment in from Mr. McDougal, and he's got a couple new additions that he's bringing to his House of Horrors, which is like a horror wax museum. Kind of like what you see in Salem, Massachusetts. If you guys ever get a chance to go there, there is a horror wax museum, so check that out if you guys ever go to Salem. I absolutely love it. So he's got two new additions to his House of Horrors, and that is what he claims to be the remains of Dracula and the remains of Frankenstein's monster. Yes. So it's up to Wilbur and Chick to deliver these new items to the Mr. McDougal's House of Horrors. And another thing is Wilbur is doing quite well with the ladies. He's got not one but two gorgeous young women fawning all over him. And Chick is just like, can't I have one? You know, come on. One of my chopped liver here. And he plays that up so well. I wish I could do them justice, but of course I'm not a comedian. But they are both absolutely at their peak of their career. They're absolutely hilarious. I love them. When I was a kid, I watched so many of the Abbott and Costello films, like Meet the Killer, Boris Karloff, Hold That Ghost, Buck Privates. So many classics. I love them. But this is definitely my favorite out of all of them. To me, this is a 5-star or more classic. So what happens is there is an ulterior motive that these women have. Sandra being one of them, and she, unbeknownst to us, works for Count Dracula. And him and Dracula have been studying the secrets of life and death as written by the brilliant Dr. Frankenstein. So their plan is to use his teachings and use his book and knowledge to bring the Frankenstein's monster back to life. And they plan to get a host and use his brain and transfer that person's brain into the monster's body. And obviously a normal person this time, because they don't want him to be completely unmanageable and crazy. They want a normal person's mind, not the mind of a killer, you know. So the monster is not crazy and unable to be controlled. They want a normal brain so they can control the monster and use him for his bidding, you know. So that's the plan. They want to enlist young Wilbur to be that brain. And he's not obliged to do so. And on the other hand, you have Mr. Lawrence Talbot, as played so well by Chaney Jr., as he has played the role in every film and every sequel to the original Wolfman, as well as the original Wolfman. So I always love his portrayal, and he's so great in this as well. I love the tragedy of his character, and his performance always brings that aspect to the character, and I love it. And he plays very well with Abbott and Costello, you know. It's just so great watching him do his thing, you know. And so great that they were able to get Bela Lugosi finally to reprise his role as Count Dracula, because he's absolutely amazing. There's just no one on earth that could ever play Dracula the way that Bela Lugosi does, and he absolutely kills it once again in this film. And unfortunately, they weren't able to get Boris Karloff to play the role of Frankenstein's monster. He didn't want to do it because he didn't want to see the monster made fun of or used in a comic book fashion, you know. They wanted the monster to be taken seriously. And I feel like he made a mistake, you know. They did pay a lot of respect to the character, and Glenn Strange does do a great job as the monster. He also played the monster in House of Dracula and House of Frankenstein, respectively. But at any rate, you did get a great guy playing the monster, and I love his makeup job, and Glenn Strange was a huge guy. He was like 6'6", I believe, you know. He's huge. Very intimidating. An awesome makeup job by Universal on him, as well as the Wolfman. So what happens is, Lon Chaney finds out what Count Dracula and Sandra and this other professor are trying to do, and he wants to put an end to it. He wants to put a stop to Count Dracula and kill him once and for all. And he's trying to get the help from Wilbur and Clark, because he knows about the shipment coming into Mr. McDougal's House of Horrors. So he tries to contact them. When they don't answer, he goes to visit them. But of course he can't control that other side of him, and that is the lycanthrope, the werewolf. So the werewolf comes to play in this film, obviously. You know, when you get those three classic monsters together, they're all going to clash. And they certainly do, and they have it out in an epic battle at Count Dracula's castle. So yeah, it's just all kinds of craziness and mayhem ensues at the castle with when they're trying to put Wilbur and strap him down, ready to transfer his brain into Frankenstein's monster. But the Wolfman shows up to put a foil in their plans. It's such an epic showdown. It's hilarious. Abbott and Costello are absolutely hilarious and brilliant, as are all the legendary Universal monster characters. So such a brilliant horror comedy. Like I said, this is my favorite horror comedy of all time. I absolutely love it, and I highly, highly recommend it. This is a 5-star classic. I give it 2 devil horns up. So guys, thank you for watching me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.